Okay, we're back for more of Innsmouth, and it's time for my favorite scenario in the campaign, just because there's a lot to talk about, a lot going on, and a lot of interesting decisions to make. To me, anyway, it's fun. I like this one, and I'm also happy to say that the designer of this one was Duke, who is the lead designer now. So way back when he was an intern, he got to do this scenario.
Yes, I also like the scenario a lot. Let us get into it because, as you said, there's a lot to talk about.
Here we are.
So, story-wise, we have just gotten off our car chase to the lighthouse, and we're going in, and we're trying to. There might be the guy who captured us in the pit of despair, so we'll see if we can see him again. But otherwise, we need to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah,
Okay,
a lot of
so
setup here, right?
a lot of setup, yeah. So let's start just go in order with the location. So first thing is we have 5 locations out. We have the gatehouse, cliffside, stairwell, and the keeper's cottage, as well as the lantern room above the stairwell. The weird thing about this one is that all of these locations in this row are connected to each other, if I recall.
Yep.
Which
Same
means
row. You can bounce from here to here if you want to,
correct.
and
Of
so can
course,
enemies.
yes. Of course, this one's only connected this way. But that is our setup location. We have as well a bunch of other tidal tunnels. We uh removed 2 of them. Actually, removed the 2 underground rivers. That's right.
Hmm.
Which maybe we should have not had those in that encounter set to begin with. But I guess we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes people forget to remove those and wonder why there's extra locations. Yep.
yeah. We got some keys. So we got the white, black, blue, yellow, and red key, and then we have 2 set aside face down keys. We have captured, which is a story card. You put it into play next to the scenario reference card, and its text is active. Um, do you want to just read this when this happens?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, so don't have to worry about it now. Set up some stuff. Okay, then we check the campaign log for the idol, the mantle, and the headdress for each of them that was brought to the lighthouse. We search the collection for those associated story assets, and we set them aside out of play because they were at the lighthouse.
Hmm.
Finally, we have 2 checks. So if we've reached Falcon Point after sunrise, meaning that we failed Horror and High Gear, or the tide has grown stronger, aka we failed Devil Reef, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, then we put a Doom on the agenda, and of course, if both happens, we put 2 Doom. So that is kind of adding to our clock. Flood tokens, blah blah blah, and we are ready to go. I believe we have the keys back in the scenario. Um, but yeah,
And this time, thankfully, the keys all say something interesting. The before it was just like information about whatever, and I like these.
yeah. If you pick up the white key, you just get to go to your collection and pick out Pocket Telescope to put into
Ah,
your play area.
I love it. Oh, that's
All
a good
right.
idea. I like that. Okay.
So we're starting at Falcon Point Gatehouse. Let's also just quickly read the action agenda because very important. You're at a very tight deadline almost immediately. So, Agenda 1, Fog of the Bay. Same row connected to each other. Forest. When this agenda advances, move all Doom on it to the next agenda. Okay. And then we have the Lighthouse. The objective is to spend 3 per clues before the agenda advances. So we have 4 turns to get 3 per clues.
And maybe not even that many if you have Doom on the agenda to begin with.
Correct. So we have a tight clock.
Hmm.
Okay, let's go down the line. Let's start at the Falcon Point Gatehouse. It cannot be fully flooded, which is interesting. 1 draw 0 clues, and as an action, we can resign. If you control the black or red keys, you place each one of them you control on the current act. So maybe that's a hint that those are the keys that we should be looking for.
Have you ever done this?
No, I have not,
Okay, me neither.
and you will understand why we sometimes don't do that. Falcon Point Cliffside. 1 shroud, 1 per clues. Cannot be fully flooded. If you control the white key, you get to read Flashback 12.
And we get the white key up here.
Yes, that sounds right.
Hmm.
Lightwell Stairway cannot be fully flooded. If there are any relic story assets currently set aside, add one of them to your hand. So those are the relic story assets that were set aside at the beginning if they were brought to the lighthouse. These are
Yeah,
good. You should take them.
you should. And then they get to be added to your deck if you make it out of here alive.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
And also at the Lighthouse Keeper's Cottage, cannot be fully flooded, and after it's revealed, we put the yellow key on it. There it is. It also has Victory 1. 4-shard, 2 clues.
Mhm.
Finally, the Lantern Room, it cannot be flooded at all, not even partially flooded. 2 shroud, 2 clues, Victory 1. After it's revealed, we put the white key on it.
So I like the theme here that this is, the ground level, and then this is up here, so you can't actually flood this at all.
Yep.
Now, if you start here, and remember, you could bounce around if you want. Remember, this is where you get the white key. This is where you use the white key. And we need, 6 clues on our 2-player map here?
Yep.
You should probably go here, and then come back down to here. But if you didn't know
Correct.
that this location is not the one you want to go to first, kind of is a waste of an action or two to move through here.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate on a blind playthrough. You're like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, like you probably don't notice the hole. You can go directly here anyway. So, or why would you think of not just going in order? But
Yeah.
yeah, well, so we get our white key and our victory point maybe from being up here. And what do we get from the flashback?
Yeah. So this is flashback 12 going into our campaign guide. Something about a conversation with Mr. Moore. I'll be honest, I don't actually know what this conversation's about.
Well, I think it's like okay, so your board is fishing vessel, and you ask him about the lighthouse and that Osiris Marsh is the lighthouse keeper, and then some other stuff I don't remember.
Okay.
It's you remember that you should come back here. So this is the flashback is that you looked at the lighthouse and you say, oh yeah, this place might be somewhere I should go to after we finish Devil Reef.
Yeah. All right. So we get to record a conversation with Mr. Moore. We get to remove one of the cultist tablet or elder thing tokens. That's pretty nice. And the lead investigator gains 1 per clues from the token pool. All right.
Which means you probably don't need the clues that are sitting here because you probably have
Maybe
enough
not.
by now.
Yeah.
Now, extra clues at this point is not bad. So I think it's okay. But
Yeah.
it's funny that that's a reward for the flashback.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we advance?
Yeah. So let's. So we both should look at. I mean, we should look at the other side of this, even though this will tell you to not, just so
Right.
we can talk about it.
So this is the act. Or sorry, should we do the agenda first? Or?
No, let's do the act first.
Okay. So Osiris shows up and he's looking for you. So if you spent our 3 per clues, we get the Osiris Marsh enemy in the Lighthouse Cottage. Let me go get him. And does he spawn exhausted? Yes, he does.
He does.
And you put the blue key on him. All right. What is the blue key? It's a key card with a symbol of an engorged fisheye.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we need to enter, I believe, the depths. So
yes. So we need the and then we get to shuffle 2 copies of, or is it 2? I actually don't know. A couple
2
copies of this encounter cards.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about those later, but it's basically a card specifically for Osiris Marsh. We put the lighthouse basement location into play directly below the lighthouse stairwell. So that is this location.
Mm-hmm. And we can't go here unless we have the blue key.
There we go. That's why we need that. And we advance directly to Agenda 2A without resolving 1B, but we still need to make sure we resolve the force effect of moving all the doom to the next one.
Correct. Okay. Now, if we didn't get all of those clues in time, what would have happened?
Yeah. So, Osiris is here. It's he is going to be spawned engaged with the lead investigator instead of being exhausted in the cottage. He still gets the blue key. Shuffle the worth of salt. Everyone loses all their clues, and we put the thing, and we go directly to Act 2A. So basically, just changes where Osiris is going to get spawned.
Yeah. And you lose your clues, which is potentially bad because you kind of need them. Well, I
guess so. Effectively, it's as if you'd spent as many as you could just to go to 3 per.
That's true. Okay. Probably don't do this. I tend not
Probably
to.
don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's read Osiris Marsh.
Yeah.
He's the keeper of the lighthouse, 462 humanoid deep one hybrid elite. Hunter retaliates. He gets +2 evade while his location is flooded. After he's successfully evaded for each point you succeeded by, you can take control of a key on him. And if he attacks you during the enemy phase, you are captured and you place each of your keys on Osiris Marsh. So,
Aha.
what is being captured? That's what this card is for. So, the first time an investigator is captured, read the following. Blah, 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 blah. So, you're basically dragged into a prison cell underneath the lighthouse. Remove the captured investigator from the location and return each asset in that investigator's hand slots to their hand. But I guess they get cuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Turn that investigator's mini card sideways to indicate that they've been captured. Captured investigators cannot move, fight, or be engaged. Okay? Flip this story card over to its holding cells side and put it into play. It is not on any existing row or column and is only connected to sunken grotto locations through its connection icons. Place the captured investigator in holding cells. From now on, when investigator is captured, do the thing. So, we flip this over. It's a location. Third shot, one precludes, and in fact, we can just probably drag it over here, I think.
Yeah. Probably on this side over here.
Sure.
Because we're going to get other locations spawning in here.
Yeah, so it cannot be flooded. It has victory 1. Enemies cannot enter or spawn at holding cells. If one would spawn here, spawn it in any sunken grotto instead. And as an action, you can test combat or agility 3 to basically free yourself. Or if you control the yellow key, you can just automatically succeed. You will flip your mini card sideways, and then you can play the game as normal.
So, how do you get here?
Yeah, good question.
If you don't have the blue key yet,
I don't. That's a great question because you can be captured before you get the blue key, right?
Yeah.
Can you soft lock yourself? This is amazing. Actually, it depends, right? The agenda, when it advances, I think might unlock it for you.
Oh, I see. When an investigator is captured, you advance the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there it is. We should have read the agenda. So yeah, when an investigator is captured, you advance. Same force effect of moving all the doom to the next one. And then our act is to get into Lighthouse Basement before the agenda advances. So we need to get the blue key off of Osiris Marsh. We can either evade him to get it off, or we could just kill him. And we get the key that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it is nice that he spawns exhausted. So you could probably just wail on him. Although he will spawn exhausted. Oh, but no, it's at the... Wait. Right. If you spend the clues, most likely that'll be before the end of the round. So he will ready. But he just won't be available to attack you. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, it's funny, though, because it'd be hard to evade him if he's already exhausted. You have to engage and then evade again, which is silly, but yeah. Only 2 evade, but the +2 while his location is flooded doesn't seem to matter too much right now because we, don't have probably much flooding going on. But
not right now. And also, he has victory too. So if you kill him, he'll just go to the victory's play. Or victory. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
pretty easy. 6 HP for 2 victory. Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
All right. Let's advance again. Let's go through the act first as well. Okay. So, hey, if he's in play, we can just put him in the victory display. I didn't have to kill him.
Nope.
All right. And at this point, we would put a bunch of locations into play. Basically, we get Sunken Grotto lower depths, Sunken Grotto upper depths, and Sunken Grotto final depths. And then it goes kind of below the lighthouse basement. Is that right?
Yep. Should we press the button?
Yeah. Sure. Oh god, I pressed it again.
Oh.
Was that okay?
I mean, it happened once, so should be okay.
Okay. That's right. Oh, that's right. That's because this card is Sunken Grotto upper depths. I forgot that it turns it. I was like, we're gonna need 2 more rows. And then we get the tidal tunnels to fill out each row. So we can just numpad 0 these. Just to show that each row is going to be still connected to each other, so you can like hop from this end over to that end, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And we shuffle each set-aside copy of Taken Captive into the encounter deck as well, and we advance directly to Agenda 3A. Blah, blah, blah.
So probably the other side of this one puts all the locations into play, too.
Yes. Each investigator is captured. Plays each key, blah, blah. Send them aside out of play. Interesting. Same thing. Okay.
He doesn't go to the victory display. That's so funny.
No, I guess not.
All right.
Okay, now we're into the kind of meat of the scenario. So our main agenda is just 10 Doom, and we'll have another one after this. But reminder, we haven't actually removed any Doom from agenda, so we have a total of 10 Doom for this kind of first agenda.
First two agendas, yeah.
Yeah.
Or three agendas, I suppose. Yeah.
And our act, Worshippers of the Deep. So it has its force effect at the end of the investigation phase. Each investigator at a fully flooded location must either take 3 damage or move to the location directly below their location. So, for example, let's say that this location is fully flooded, for example. At the end of the investigation phase, each investigator here must either take 3 damage or move here.
Free move.
Same thing. They're there. You're there. If you're here, you can't do that.
You got to take 3 damage instead. Yeah.
Correct. And then, if each undefeated investigator has resigned, advance. Hint, you may wish to find what you came for before you leave this place. The black and red keys represent the objects you need most. Thank you, game, for telling us that hint.
You could just go resign here, right? That's the place you're supposed to go to?
Absolutely.
All right, great. We're done. Well, so we talked about the holding cells already, and this is also kind of a way to move a little bit more quickly if possible. If you never get captured, by the way, you don't get this victory point.
And that has happened to me, and it's sad.
It is. But otherwise, you basically have to, because like the yellow key... Wait, where's the yellow key?
It was in the cottage.
It was in the cottage. Okay. That's the only way to get the victory point, to pick up the key, right? You have to... Someone drops their keys here. Is that what happens here? I don't remember. The keys drop somewhere. He has the keys.
Yeah.
That's right. You place your keys on him. Anyway, yeah, it's very easy to get those clues back. But I also think it's funny that you get your hand slot items back too. So if there's something with charges or ammo on it, you're like, well, I could reload my gun.
Yeah, there's some ammo in the holding cells.
Exactly. This fingerprint kit here has all these supplies on it. All right. So the meat of the scenario, as you said, is to explore and see what else is around and how we get those black and red keys. So
yeah.
Let's just start revealing some locations.
It is the Shrine to Hydra. 5 Shroud, 2 clues. Victory 1. Clues cannot be discovered from Shrine to Hydra except by investigating. While an investigator at Shrine to Hydra controls the green key, it gets -3 Shroud. And after it's revealed, you put the red key on it.
Look what I found.
No, but hey, you know what's a good way to get clues off a location without investigating them?
Sinead Beauregard.
Sinead Beauregard. Yeah. Anyway, so this has the red key on it.
Okay, that was easy.
That's cool. Hey, it's the underwater cavern, so you can move to flooded cave locations. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Deep One Nursery. 2 Shroud, 0 clues. If you control the purple key, you compare the purple key to the oversized eggs littering the flooded chamber and recall something. Read flashback 13, and after it's revealed, you increase its flood level.
This one's funny because there's nothing here until you come back and have the purple key. Like, there's no clues, and we didn't. Maybe I forgot. Did we say that all of these sunken grottos have the ability to spend clues to look at the locations?
Clues where you can free trigger to spend 1 per clues to look at a real-time mechanical location on this row. And they all say that.
Yep, which is good. That way you don't have to take actions to move. So if you, like I said, this one does nothing now, so you just come back and do it later. Also a good way if you have a press pass, just dump your clues.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
I think it's also the only reason to use clues, right?
I think there's, everything else is to remove clues from locations in order to pick up keys.
As in there's no other reason to spend them, so you should just use them.
Right.
Here.
Okay.
All right. Hey, it's a pump room. 3 Shroud, 0 clues. As an action, test 2 intellect or 2 agility. If you succeed, choose 2 locations. Decrease the flood level of one of them and increase the flood level of the other one. If you succeed by 2 or more, you may instead just choose 1 location and decrease its flood level. You're pumping the water out.
Why would I need to do that?
Good question.
Hmm.
All right. Next, we have the Sunken Archives. 2 shroud, 1 per clues. It cannot be clues cannot be discovered at Sunken Archives while it is flooded. When it's revealed, it becomes fully flooded, and you get the black key. Yes.
I just teed that one up for you. There you go.
Hey,
You could just walk over here and unflood the Sunken Archives.
there you go. Or, ba-doom.
We haven't
This
talked
is
about
also a
this in
thing.
a while, but yeah.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention this because we've technically had the story asset in theory since Into Deep. So Devil Reef and Horan Hiker. And maybe not the best place to use it, but this is definitely a good place to use it. Maybe not this specific location, but this has one of the abilities to remove a flood token from a non-sanctum location, and these are all non-sanctum. Um, so if you really, really need to unflood something, then the teachings of the order can do it for you.
Hmm. Maybe this is the best place to do it. Let's see if there's anywhere else that might be a little better.
Oh, hey, here it is.
Did you
It's
look at
the
these
moon
already?
room. All right, so 3 shards are clues. If the moon room as an action is unflooded, resign. You don one of the emptying diving suits, excuse me, and dive into the reflecting pool. If you control the black or red key, you place each of them on the current act, and after it's revealed, you increase its flood level. So it's actually not fully flooded necessarily.
We seem to have found the red and black keys, and it's possible to get them and just leave.
That's true.
The pump room, of course, is going to help us unflood the moon room, but there's 3 other locations. So one of them's another one of these. We know that. And the other 2 are locations with keys, probably. Okay.
One is the cave thing, and then we have 2 tile tunnels for some randomized face down keys.
Okay, so there's a purple and a green, right?
Correct.
Purple is for this guy, the Deep One
Yep.
Nursery, and the green one is to
And the
make this
green
a little
just
easier.
helps with this.
Yeah. Not necessary, but
No.
you're not really, I don't know, you don't know which one is which, and you're not really in the position to be choosing, what to get when in this scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the bottommost ones. So as we'll see in a second, they will potentially get more flooded more quickly. Tidal pools would be a little bit more difficult in this arrangement, but this is all randomized. So the location of all of these important ones, who knows? You need to walk around and spend some time figuring out where they are.
All right.
But we have our objective, right? This is pretty much it. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
the flashback for this now that we have our purple key.
Yes. So if I recall, this one is like we get to understand how the deep ones. Yeah. We get to record the life cycle of a deep one. We get to like remember how they work, I guess.
Yeah, the eggs and whatnot
Yeah.
is kind of weird, but yep.
And we get to remove another one of those tokens. So I think technically it is possible that there are 0 of those tokens in the entire bag. Correct?
Hmm.
Because you got to remove potentially one of them in Into Deep, right?
Ah, right. That's right. And then if you
Yeah.
got nothing from Double Reef, then you could remove another, yeah, 3, and you'd remove 3 from the very first scenario. Okay, yeah. There might be nothing.
Nothing.
That's maybe not great, though. But you're right.
That's true.
You do kind of want one of these or all of them or whatever you manage to get. Yeah, so a reminder that the Awakened Mantle lets you move around from flooded locations. That seems kind of good in this scenario. And then the Wave-Worn Idol also lets you deal with flood level changing, as well as Deep One enemies, which we haven't seen yet, but you can bet that they're here. I guess Osiris is a Deep One.
Yes, he is.
Okay. That's it, except for, well, let's advance the agenda.
Yeah. So here's the real meat. So when the agenda advances, you search all out of play areas for Osiris Marsh and spawn him in the sunken grotto upper depths. He has returned. Remove each Falcon Point location from the game, or add it to the Victor's Play as Victory X. No clues. Move each enemy and investigator at these locations to the sunken grotto upper depths. Find the 4 bottommost locations that can have their flood levels increased. Increase each of their flood levels. So,
Ooh.
Osiris has locked the door, as it were. Let's say he's here now. And we basically flood. Actually, we'd have a choice here. So we'd have to do like this, and then we get to choose like one of these,
Mhm.
I guess. So maybe like that or something.
Sure. And then he's up here. And there's one more thing to talk about on the last agenda that is kind of important. Maybe two things, I guess. But he suddenly has more health than just a 6.
Correct. So on the last agenda, yeah, she has +2 per risk in her health, and we only have 3 more Doom, but it may not end when the agenda advances. And in fact, we should probably just read the back of this now.
The tide continues to rise.
So you find the 4 bottommost to have their locations, their flood levels increase each of their flood levels. If you cannot, then you proceed to R3. Otherwise, you keep playing. So technically, you can actually never doom out of this scenario if you just keep pumping your way out. Yeah, that's it.
So that also means that the pump room is here. You don't want this one to be flooded, fully flooded, because you
You
don't
might
want
take some
to.
damage.
You might take some damage, or it's unlikely you want to drop down here and take actions just to move up again. So yeah, that's kind of the crux of this part of the scenario. After you deal with this guy, who thankfully does go away after you kill him a second time, is to figure out a way to survive while avoiding that agenda flip that floods 4 locations again.
Yep.
That's kind of it. There's a lot that makes that more difficult, but even just the map layout is a challenge in this scenario, because figuring out, like, if this one ends up, well, okay, what's your opinion on, like, what is the worst versus the best arrangement?
Oh,
And
the
how would
worst
you?
one is if the pump room and the moon room are on the bottom,
Okay,
because they are immediately always going to be chosen to be the bottommost.
that's right.
And so that just requires more work to begin with. Also, I guess I imagine that having the red and black keys on the bottom is bad as well, because it just takes more time to get them, right?
And it's hard to get them if this keeps getting flooded, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The worst thing to me is like when the pump room and wherever you're trying to unflood to get to are on like completely different rows, and that's why
yeah.
the cavern can be very helpful.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. This I think this is cool. What a sick idea to make this arrangement really important, but also fairly randomized. I don't think I mean, you can get screwed a little bit, but I think it just represents differing levels of difficulty, I suppose, and that's okay. Like, sometimes it'll be friendly, sometimes it'll be not so great, but usually it's interesting enough though that it's worth the randomization.
Yeah, I agree. And also, it also feels like the uh the randomization helps with, like, not having a direct path to success here, like
Mm-hmm.
being able to not being able to know where the red and black keys are every time, means that it's always interesting where they are. So yeah.
And you do not have to get the red and black keys. All you need to do is resign, which requires you to unflood the moon room.
Yep.
So if you feel like you just can't do it for whatever reason, it's better to just get out.
Probably.
Speaking of, what is R3?
Yeah, so R3 is, go to back here. Hey, you panic as the water level rises all the way to the ceiling of cavern, and you die. Dun dun dun.
Mm-hmm.
You
A
lose.
a rare campaign ending scenario number 6.
Yep.
I guess City of Archives is that too, but
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, this is pretty sick. Like, you don't realize it at first, but I think the rising tide it fits in with this perfectly. It makes sense. Like, that's why you
Yeah.
would die.
I always enjoy the scenarios that their doom threshold is like not you lose if it just reaches this. It's like there's this like built in like diegetic thing that the thing is going towards, where if you reach a certain point you're gonna die. So I always like that. Like it's similar to the Depths of Yoth, where it's like the agenda can't actually cause you to fail. You just
Mm-hmm.
draw more and more encounter cards until you die.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I'm also thinking, when you brought that up, of agendas that flip back and forth too, of Dark Side of the Moon and Point of No Return from Dream Eaters, which we talked about some time ago, differed in their success of that mechanic. There's no Ancient Evils in this one,
That's true.
so you can time it the way you want to, which I think is important for the fact that you have to run back and forth from locations.
Yeah.
That said, there's other ways that you're going to get messed up from trying to plan things out too far ahead. So, should we talk about the other resolutions, or should we talk about the enemies? What do you want to do next?
Resolutions for now, because some of them are straightforward. So,
Oh, okay.
I believe so. Leia, if we go to the very top here, where no resolution was reached, because each investigator was defeated and it was agenda 1, 2, or 3, we go to R4. So R4 is this weird one because it means that you were defeated, but before Osiris Marsh could like lock you in here.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually get to continue on. So if you die early, you're okay. And yeah. That being said, if you go back here, that each investigator was defeated in Resolution 3. They've said that. And then R1 and R2 are actually based on where you resigned from, if I recall. Am I saying that right? Where's the wait?
Where's the other thing?
Yeah, here it is.
Ah, right.
Right. So if each investigator who resigned did so from Falcon Point Gate, actually, this is weird because this is on the back of this act, right? How would you even get to the back of this?
Well, if you did it before this happens, right?
Right, but I mean, like,
Because this flip was what got rid of these locations.
right? No. I mean, like at the beginning, Act 1. What if you just all resign?
Oh,
You'd actually go to R4, right? No, like that's what I'm saying. I don't think that there's actually a case in here that carries that.
no resolution because you resigned from the. Good point.
Yeah, I maybe this campaign guide is out of date. So it could be that it would just tell you to go to R2. But anyway, that's what you should do. Because you resigned before you got locked in the thing. Anyway, otherwise, if you resign from the moon room, then you're able to do some stuff. Everyone gets a diving suit. The people that were able to resign there, which is nice. And the black and the red keys are each able to give you a map, either a map or the keys of Yanath Lay, which will help in the future scenarios. You get to earn the relic story assets if you had them added to someone's hand, and then you get victory X. But don't spend it because we're going back on a final flashback.
Mm-hmm. I did quickly look at the updated campaign guide for the repackage, and it says the same stuff here. So
Okay,
maybe it's different on the actor agenda or something, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, pretty simple resolution, I'd say.
Yep.
Enemies and treacheries.
Sure. All right. So we got some deep ones to talk about. We got the deep one, Nursemaid, which is a 3/2/2 enemy humanoid monster deep one. Aloof, retaliate. While it's unengaged, each other deep one enemy at its location gets, or connected location, gets +1 fight, +1 evade. And after it engages you, you draw the top card in the counter deck and it gains Surge. So it does have Aloof, so you don't have to kill it, but it'll make all the other ones more annoying to kill.
Mm-hmm. And if you try to kill it by engaging it first, then you get an encounter card, but loses Surge.
And then we
is
have,
like this thing, which has Surge.
The deep one has it's a baby.
It's a baby.
1/1/1 monster deep one. It has Surge. After you engage it, you must either lose an action or it attacks you. And after you defeat it, move the nearest ready unengaged deep one enemy once towards your location. That enemy loses a loop during this movement. So basically, you kill the baby, and then Earthspade's gonna come and beat you up, and then you draw an encounter card, and you're like, "Oh my god, stop!"
Yep. This is a really tough on-engage effect, don't you think? I mean, the one horror is not that bad, but the longer this scenario goes on, plus that we've got Rotting Remains, it's kind of a tough choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, there's 4 of them. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. And they surge, so they don't really count towards the encounter deck size. It's crazy.
All right, I love the art on this one. Hideous Lullaby.
Yeah, Hideous Lullaby. So if there are no deep one enemies in play against Surge, otherwise, find the deep one enemy in play with the highest fight value. Test willpower X against that fight value. If you fail, take 2 horror. Ultimately, it's not that bad.
Depends on who it is, right? Deep One Bull is a 4 test.
I guess so, but I'm saying all you do is take 2 horror.
Yep, that's true.
All right, we got the Kits of Brine. Test to combat.
What?
Combat test on my treachery. In this day and age, yeah. Increase the difficulty of this test by 2 if you're at a flooded location. If you fail, take a damage and put it into play in your threat area. You cannot gain resources or draw cards. At the end of the enemy phase, you discard it.
Okay. This is such a strange card. Is it like Mad Lib's treachery? Like all of these things are just random effects, and they don't seem to make any sense with one another.
And also, I don't even think it's that bad.
It's not bad, but it's just that's what makes it so strange is that it doesn't really fit into anything else. You take literally 1 damage,
Yeah.
and you at the end of the enemy phase you discard it, so you still get cards and resources during upkeep.
Yeah.
It,
I have no idea.
I don't know. Like I said, each of these sentences are completely unconnected.
Yeah. I guess something about hot water.
I don't know. And even the combat being on a test, I don't have a problem with that. Just doesn't match either. So
Yeah.
whatever.
It's weird. All right, we got totality. Test the real power. If you fail, put it in play in the third area. After you enter a flooded location, take a horror, and at the end of your turn, you discard it.
They really
So
love
obviously,
this forced effect at the end of some random uh, time that you don't usually think about getting rid of cards.
yeah, that's true. Um, so like obviously in the beginning, this is nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
But obviously at the end, where you're like everything's flooded, blah blah blah, you can take a lot of horror from this. So it effectively just might be a rotting remains if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not so bad, but it's like, yeah, it could be worse.
I think it goes along with a Kiss of Brine. Okay, like it's taking a damage. This is maybe taking 1 horror, but maybe more. Right. This one has
Yeah.
a much worse ceiling.
Yep. All right, we got Worth Its Salt, which only gets shuffled in when Osiris Marsh comes out. Its revelation is that you attach it to him, even if he is in the victor display. I guess not if he's set aside, though, which is weird. After he moves for his Hunter keyword, if he's engaged, he resolves his Hunter keyword again, but he cannot attack this phase. But when he attacks, the attack deals +1 damage and +1 horror. Discard the card, but that's what 3 and 3, right?
I think he just does 1 and 1 to start with, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But there's 2 of these, so
There are 2 of them.
it could happen.
Yeah. In fact, I think what most likely happens is like he goes to the victor display after you kill him, or in fact, just after you get his key. And then these cards come out and you're like, okay, I guess I'll just put it on him. And then when he comes back, he's like, I'm tougher now.
The funny part is when you kill him the second time before you've drawn these, then you draw these and they go attached to him anyway.
Yeah. So these are basically freebies most of the time because they don't gain surge. So like, kind of nice.
Yeah, I don't think they're that tough. It's hard to remember the second part too, where he moves twice but then doesn't attack.
Right.
But when that usually happens, let's go back to our map for a second. It moving twice is catching up most places, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he starts here the second time. So it's going to be really hard to avoid him. Like the hunters in this scenario, there's not that many of them. There's just this guy, I think, and the potential movement of the nursemaids. There's nowhere to go. You get boxed in pretty quickly.
Yep.
Anyway,
All right.
good card, but not too awful.
Yeah. Finally, we have taken captive. It's a agility test. If you fail, you're captured. You put your keys on the holding cell. So just another way to get captured.
Yep, fine.
It's a agility test to get dendromorphosis.
It's a victory point, is what I'm hearing from this card.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Okay, so we got some deep ones returning. I think that these ones are relevant because the deep one hatchlings, they can move the deep one bull twice, correct?
Yes.
Bill really cares about the children.
Oh no.
Yeah, so basically the additional hatchlings may make them more annoying, like it's harder to evade because they're just going to come if you defeat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the nursemaids just make them tougher, so it's like probably ideal to get rid of the nursemaids as well.
Yeah, if you can. They're easy to kill, just you don't want to take the extra encounter card.
Yeah.
I will say that there's a couple other cards here that have Surge, potentially, like Undertow and Rising Tides and Riptide. that if you draw one of those off of her, they do not have search
Yeah, I guess so.
if your location is unflooded.
Right.
So
Although it does say that it gains. Wait.
yeah, so gains and loses basically cancel each other out. So
Okay.
they
I assume
whiff.
it's not like an ordering thing where it's like
Nope.
it loses surge, but then it gains it afterwards. Like losing surge means that it cannot have surge.
Right. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Or it's like a constant effect or something on it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, we got deep one assault.
Yeah.
If you leave these guys scattered around, like getting to engage multiple babies again.
Oh god.
Ugh. Ugh.
Well, then kill the babies.
You're well, but I find the scenario this little corner of the table right now is the scenario.
Yeah.
You think it's so easy to walk around the map, huh? Mm,
All right. So yeah, we got the flooding ones. I think these ones are pretty standard. I don't think anything
no.
special about them. We got syzygy and tile alignment back. Syzygy always is a mess, but I think it's fine.
There's a lot of horror in this one. I mean, the damage
Yeah.
comes from the agenda potentially, but the syzygy giving you potentially two totality.
Well, just choose to lose the resource.
Choose to put the doom on the agenda. I guess there is
Yeah.
ancient evils in this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rotting remains here.
Yeah. That's true.
Frozen in Fear, I think, is also tough.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot of moving in this, especially if the moon room and the pump room are far away. You're like get frozen in fear, like, oh god, we're gonna die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a good set. Like, it's very tight, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
We should look at the scenario reference card because we didn't do that.
Oh, how did we forget?
Okay, so the skulls. This is one of the weirdest skulls I've ever seen. So it's a -1. If your location is flooded, you reveal an additional chaos token. So basically, if you're Jim Culver, you didn't draw a skull, which is always the case.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's funny. Yeah.
cultist -2. If you fail after the test ends, increase the flood level of your location. So that can be bad if you're in the moon room, I guess. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. Oh, okay, the cultist is the one that I generally take out of the bag. This is
Again,
awful.
the cultist, it has the low modifier, but it has a bad effect. That's usually how it goes in this campaign and moving forward. But it's only a -2, so like that's generally okay to be at.
Yeah, but if you're Stella, you get rid of
Right.
this.
If you're Stella, for sure. All right, tablet -3. If you fail and your location is flooded, take a damage. Not so bad. Elder Thing -4. If you fail, move the nearest ready unengaged enemy once towards the location it loses aloof during this movement. So that can trigger the nursemaid, that can trigger the hatchling, which can cause it to lose an action, and so that gets annoying. Albeit, I think that in general, the way that I play the scenario is to try to kill them as fast as possible. And of course, if it is already engaged with you, sorry, you can't choose it because it has to be unengaged. So, like, if you can manage the enemies, it's not so bad. But it can get annoying if you're just leaving them out there. If you're evading them, for example.
Okay, I think in this scenario, playing 4-player, the map is going to get very cluttered. If you got to kill these guys, I guess, but you just have to tank, I guess, the extra encounter card. Oh well.
Yeah.
Maybe this is less scary than it reads.
I mean, the encounter cards in this, the treacheries are like, we saw like 6 cards in here that do nothing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. You're
like,
right.
Kiss of Brine does nothing. Worth Assault can just basically do nothing. So, the encounter cards, the treacheries at least, aren't really that bad.
This one seems bad.
True. Albeit, yeah. I mean, it takes damage, right?
I mean, I don't think increasing the flood level of locations you're sitting on is particularly good, right?
Sure.
But worse later. Okay. I think we've covered everything. It's a tightly designed scenario, and there's some pretty good pressure to get going. And I like how that they, remove some locations, a little bit of a fake out there from Osiris Marsh and whatnot. I think this is a overall win.
Yeah.
Shall we go on to our ratings?
Let's do it.
I think this is a really fun scenario to play each time I play it. Mostly because of all the different locations and arrangements that I think makes a lot of fun. But I also just think it's kind of fun because it's an exhilarating ride. So I don't think the replayability is like the best I've ever seen, but I find it enjoyable. Again, like sometimes you might not get the red and black keys, or you leave one behind, or you don't get all the flashbacks. Like that's another thing going on in this scenario, that there's options, right? And you might find that it's a better idea to leave early.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start out. I'm gonna give it a 4,
Mhm.
because I agree that I like the replayability, specifically the layout of the locations really helps that. I do think that there is a little bit of a lack of like victory, uh, uh, like success conditions. Like basically, what I'm trying to say is that like yes, the goal is to get the red black key, but you don't need to get them. But like that is your success is like, oh, can I get the red key? Can I get the black key? Um, but it doesn't feel like a lot of the other very replayable ones where it's like there's degrees to success.
True. Hmm.
Um, this one lacks a little bit of that, not a lot, but it does lack a little bit. So that's why it's a 4 instead of like a 5, for example.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I think that for even though the map layout is randomized, it does have a strict structure to it where it has these rows, and so there is like it basically comes down to the randomization is about what is near the bottom and what things are on different floors of than each other. Um, and that has a lot less variance than something like the Carcosa,
Pallid mask, yeah.
the Palette Mask, right? Um,
The gold
that's
standard
like
of all of this,
that's
yeah.
the gold standard for location randomization, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of the things I'm comparing it to. But overall, I do agree that like there's a lot of freedom to do a lot of different things in the scenario, and so it gives you that replayability aspect of it.
All right, I'll go with 4 as well. I'll just add that it does have the other flashbacks too, right? Not just the ones at the beginning, but the life cycle, the deep one, which is the purple key. So that's one more thing you can strive for.
That's true.
Okay, let's go on to fairness. And this one is more about what can you do about some of the randomness of this scenario. There's not a whole lot other than the locations, right? That's kind of the part to pay attention to.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately the fact that the players have agency, specifically with the pump room, I think is the thing that makes this very fair. Like, you could get unlucky with your, layouts, but you have a lot of agency on how far you want to go with whether or not you want to get the red, black keys, purple key, or if you just want to escape. The amount of actions you're willing to put into the pump room to be able to get the things you want. So like there's a lot of just, points where the scenario is like, all right, do as much as you can or do what you want instead of just saying like the scenario is over, for example. Um so yeah, I think honestly I think it's pretty fair.
All right, you're gonna give it a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.5. I think it sounds good.
Okay, right. This one I find, even when the elements are against you a bit, that it's still doable and it doesn't feel like you can't. I've played the what you said earlier of the worst possible situation. I've played that. You can still win. You are required to do a number of different things and really plan out your turns well, but you can still do it. I think that there's enough agency by the players to make it happen. So I'll go with 4.5 as well. And the pressure I think is pretty decent. Like they don't make you deal with the direct damage from flooded locations every time. You can just float down if you want to. You have time to figure that part out.
Yep.
Likewise, I'm not sure it really requires any particular style of play here. You need to be able to. You don't even need to evade or Osiris Marsh. Like that's helpful, but you could just kill him.
And like
And there's a lot of like fail states, right? They don't even like it's bad to advance those agendas before you get the clues or the key, but it's not impossible to move on after that.
and it doesn't cause you like immediate loss. Like all it does is it just like makes Osiris Marsh spawn with you instead of at the cottage, or just makes you captured which is interesting flavor. So
Hmm.
like, and I think that like the balance is good because compared to horror and high gear, where you're like we need to get clues right now all the time. This one is like much more open. You can get the clues at your own pace. You can do tricky things with the clues. And we were talking about Janae, but specifically like you can get like if you have Charlie Kane that can just like pass a really high skill test every turn, they can just go to Shrine to Hydra and not even have to get the green key. Just pass those tests
Hmm.
by himself, right? Um, so there's a lot of things going on, and yeah, honestly I think it's pretty balanced as well. Like everyone kind of has ways to contribute, and the enemies are like varied enough where you're like we don't maybe we don't want to kill the nursemaid. Maybe this hatchling is like obviously it's bad when it engages you, so like we can have things where you try and stun it over and over again. It's not a humanoid, so you can't actually handcuff it,
Hmm.
which would be hilarious. But there's ways to go about these, I think.
Yeah, and you could probably take advantage of the enemies in this one in ways that I think the campaign, as we've gone so far, has been very much you deal with them in one way,
Yeah.
right? I think you can do a little bit more with them. I'm thinking of like Alessandra. Like, do you want to beguile a couple of these enemies? Maybe
Right.
that can be useful. Um, that comes with having an aloof enemy. I think in the campaign, the
Yeah.
we haven't seen an aloof deep one yet, other than Tony Morgan's weakness. Yeah,
um,
pretty good, I think, for
yeah.
balance.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna give it a 5. Actually, I think it's like really on the nose. It's good.
And there's a variation in terms of the treacheries. We've got a lot of willpower ones because of the striking fear set, but there's also a nice chunk of other things. I guess there's no intellect test, but you even have a combat one. So major major points for one of those.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and even like having an extra way to get around faster, like the Pathfinder or whatever shortcut, is nice, but I like that they give you some good tools if you did well in the previous couple scenarios. Those relics are very powerful in this scenario.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have some of those things that are favored, you are given potentially some of them. All right. Our last thing is always about the experience. Do you get a new and interesting gameplay loop? And how about the fiction it's trying to evoke? So we said it already, but I love the rising tide. Like that's cool. It works for the scenario, and the mechanic of unflooding locations makes more sense here than it has ever before.
Yeah. And I think another good one is Osiris Marsh locking you in the basement. I think that's like the turning point of when the agenda flips to remove the Falcon Point locations is really really cool.
Hmm.
Him like coming back, and I always, as we mentioned, like I like the fact that the agenda isn't just doom and it's done. I like that it's tied to literally the rising tide, as you said. So that's like a tied in thing. It doesn't like just doom out and then it's over. Um, and I also really like a lot of the flavor with the keys and like the weird stuff down here, the Shrine to Hydra and the
Hmm.
seeing the life cycle of a deep one. You're like, oh, I get to see the eggs pop out or stuff like that. So yeah, I think overall I really like it. The gameplay is good, and it's pretty solid. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Okay, me too. I'm going to add something about the title tunnel set because you made a comment earlier, and I wanted to kind of jump in and say something about this scenario makes the title tunnel set fine.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I actually do think a lot of the problem with the tile tunnels is the underground river. Um, I
That's
think
the
it's
one with the
fine
victory
in
point and the
yeah,
cannot be fully flooded, right?
I think it's fine in Pit of Despair. So maybe you should have just been in that.
Hmm.
But in Devil Reef, they should have just not have it because it's a waste of time to go there.
Yep.
Like, and it adds to more frustration of like, where the frick are the keys that we need, right?
Hmm.
And in this one specifically, I think it would have detracted the scenario as well because like, it's there's not really a point to go there. Obviously, you can peek at it, but like they did it in a specific way because of that, right?
Yeah, and they probably didn't want it to be in this one because it can't be fully flooded, so
Of course.
you just hide out there forever. Although I suppose you'd have to take 3 damage.
I don't. You'd have to
Oh
You
wait,
would doom out eventually.
you would doom out. Yeah, yeah. Okay, because you
Yeah,
can't
because you'd be like, oh, we
move
can't
four of
flood four
them. Yeah.
locations, so we're done.
Okay. Well, still, it doesn't need to be in this one. And the other part of this is looking at the previous ones that have tidal tunnels. We feel this way. The problem, and I know it's not fair because we haven't talked about those scenarios yet, is this one feels very cohesive with locations, and the next two do not. Because you'd think
Yeah.
that this is the third time we've seen the tidal tunnel set. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and there's two more to go. That's a little wild. But what makes this one feel really fun is that the the one that gets fully flooded means a lot. The tidal pools, I think, mean a lot, and the rest of them, of course, it's just the other side of locations we haven't seen before that are unique to this scenario. In of Dagon next time, it feels like a chore, and in the last scenario, it feels like filler.
Because it's literally only like the beginning of the
It's only the
scenario.
beginning, yeah, and in Lair de Gaon, it's only the end, so it's I don't know, feels like phoning it in, and they didn't really take advantage of it in a way that the flooding mechanic here works.
Yeah, and I think importantly, it's because of those caverns, right? The ones that can cause you to move. Like
Hmm.
in this scenario, it's genuinely interesting where those show up to allow you to be able to move between different levels. I think it's really interesting.
And they're
In
always
Lair of Dagon,
available, right? In
correct,
in in the Devil Reef, like those might show up and be totally useless.
right. But that being said, I think it's also interesting in Devil Reef. Like
It
technically in
can be,
this one,
yeah.
it could be. Well, I mean, I think in this one it's interesting because all of the other ones are also caves and therefore can be flooded, so you can move there.
Exactly, yeah.
But they can be they can be a thing in Devil Reef. I think specifically Lair of Dagon into the Maelstrom, they're basically useless because of the way that
Yes.
the map is constructed. So like, there's no reason for them to be there either.
Oh no.
Anyway,
Well,
we'll talk about those when we get to it.
yep, we'll get there. So, any last thoughts?
This one's good. I really like it. Good job, Duke.
Yeah. And it's nice that they've revisited some of these ideas too. Like the moving Doom to the next agenda comes back in Scarlet Keys quite a bit, I
Yeah,
think. At least the first scenario.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think it's a fun time to play this one. It's stressful once you get towards the end, and I do enjoy that part of Arkham where you sit down and try to, how do I get out of this? I
yeah.
just drew, a baby into a nursemaid or something. What now? Um, but that's okay. This is like a hallmark of the game to have those moments. It feels like unspeakable oath in some ways, um, not just because it could end the campaign. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week for scenario number 7, Lair of Dagon.